It was good, y'all. It's your boy JD6 here with my man. Shout out to KC Sports Authority. Make sure y'all go check that podcast out, man.
You heard the man. Well, JD6 might be our guy, but he may have come off of his worst game in a Kansas uniform. The emotions are strong. The frustration is high. KU, of course, drops their game to Illinois, which they had no business losing this weekend, 23-17. Of course, we're going to talk about it. I'm sure this is going to be, if anybody knows JB here on the podcast, he's going to have some strong takes tonight. Might have a few overreactions. Let's get into all of it. Let's talk about, should expectations change? How are we feeling coming out the loss? What should we expect moving forward? All that here on the KC Sports Authority podcast. But first, of course, if you've been checking us out this whole time, thank you so much for following along. If you haven't done so yet, hit that like and subscribe button below. We are currently on our way to 1,000 subscribers, and despite the frustration of this last weekend, we still have a massive giveaway we'd like to do, and that is once we hit 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube, we are giving away 2 jerseys, one Jalon Daniels signed jersey if you still have love for him after this weekend, and of course a Devin Neal jersey, which of course we still have love for him because he had a tremendous game and should have gotten the rock a lot more, which we'll talk about. But go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button below here on YouTube. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers, and we will give away those 2 jerseys to a lucky follower, 1 to 2 different people. So one person gets one jersey, one gets the other. Make sure you're following us on all of our social medias at KCSA Pod to stay tuned for that. I think right now we're flirting just under 900, so a little over 100 to go. But JB Murphy, Austin Eckler here with me. Of course, I'm Keegan Russell. Guys, let's just get into it. Let's wear the pain and the hurt on the shoulders, on our sleeves, on our chest. Austin, I know you were at the game. You made the journey up there to just sit there in agony the entire second half. I don't even know where to begin with this game. There's a lot of feelings I have, a lot of takes I have. After 24, 48 hours of thinking on it, I think I've settled down some. But boy, that was a stupid game.
I
don't know what else to call it.
Dude, no, it was the worst. It was the worst game as a Kansas fan that I could have ever watched. Like I'm sorry, but like in past years, think about it. In past years when we were god awful, it's like, okay, well, I guess I expected this. It's like that game. I don't know. It could have been something I ate that day. I don't know. I was in a bad mood pretty much the whole game. Honestly, we could have done so much more right from the jump, and we actually were leading for a lot of that game, but it felt like we were playing from behind. It was that frustrating. A close personal friend of mine texted me during the game saying, "Hey, are you watching the game?" I literally responded in an instant. I said, "Leave me alone." And I was like, "Oh, shoot." And this is the type of friend that I knew it'd be a problem that I said that. So I was like, "Look, I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to be mean. That was my bad. I just can't talk to anybody right now." Like,
I know
really
when you're in your feels, like you just gotta let you be for a while until you come out of it.
Yeah.
You get pretty worked up.
I was going.
I was mad. I was pretty mad sitting here on my couch saying things I shouldn't say.
It was so much anger, and it was so much anger that it was one of those nights where you start to reflect internally, and you're like, wow, do I have like an anger problem? It was that bad because it was so frustrating to see not only the interceptions, but also just the odd play calling. And I know we'll get into that throughout this podcast recording, but it was just such an annoying game. There were things that we did right. There were definitely things we did wrong. And it was one that made me question my fandom of the Jayhawks, which, as crazy as it is, we're primarily a KU podcast. I don't know. I went on Twitter. I'll be honest. I said, I am not a fan of Kansas football anymore. And I have not pulled that tweet down. No deletes over here.
Yeah, you're not you stand by what you say, no delete. But Austin, for those that, I mean, obviously I want you to give us your take on the day and your experience going up there to the game. But for those that are like, man, JB's a Debbie Downer or he's overreacting, what is your message to the fan base on why maybe as frustrating as a loss as this was, that it's not the end of the world or end of the season like many of us definitely felt like in the moment?
Well, I mean, first off, oh crap, sorry, my bad. Look, I'm still wearing his jersey, and obviously Saturday was not his best game.
You
I don't
think?
know why we threw that pick six. Obviously, that play really was a head scratcher. But the thing is, for me, yeah, Jalen did not have his best game, but I think it's one of those things where every quarterback is going to have a bad game on the road at some point in their career. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be Patrick Mahomes, you could be Tom Brady,
Or
I mean,
Shadur Sanders.
you could be Shador Sanders. Yeah, there you go. I don't know if I'd put him in the same sentence, but but it was very frustrating. I obviously went to the game, sat in the front row with my JD6 jersey on, and of course the fans behind me had to let me know every time he threw an interception. It was not fun in that regard, but other than, the fans that were giving me a hard time about what happened in the game and everything that was going on, drove all the way to Champaign, left Saturday morning, got there probably like an hour before kickoff, got into Champaign at like 5, and was able to find a really neat parking spot for like $7 instead of paying 50 or whatever. So we were able to do that, and it was only like a mile walk from my car to the stadium. Again, 6.5 hour drive. We stayed in a town outside of Champaign called Tuscola. This is like 4,500 people. But we stayed in a motel out there, and then immediately left after that because we knew that it's not the place to stay, of course. But but my initial thoughts on the trip to Champaign, other than the game, I thought the University of Illinois was really cool. I was really impressed with their campus. Their stadium too is very old timey, and what I mean by old timey, like their concourse areas are, they're not, up to date, of course, with some of the stadiums that are out there now. But it definitely looked like a Big Ten stadium to me, and it felt like it too. And I just appreciated, the stadium for what it was. They also call it Memorial Stadium. For the same exact reason that KU calls it Memorial Stadium here, and I thought that was really cool to learn about. But yeah, it was a neat experience. And about the game though, Jalen threw 3 interceptions. Every quarterback's going to have a game like that. It's just part of it. No quarterback is going to have a good performance every single game. So, but the thing is, I think this is a great learning experience for Jalen. I mean, this is his first time playing football in nearly a year, so it's a good learning experience. It's a good wake up call too. I sure hope that it was a wake up call for Jalen, and I think he's going to bounce back and have a really good game on Friday. But
Oh yeah,
like
count me
like
in
like
for that.
like what we
200,
taught, like
250 yards, 3 or 4 touchdowns, 300 all-purpose yards. I'm feeling it.
well.
Maybe.
I think what KU needs to do on Friday night is run the dang football. I mean,
Thank
I'll
you.
take a quote from one of my favorite movies. It's a sad movie, but it's also a really really great movie, The Blind Side. Bert, run the dang ball. That's what I would tell KU. I mean, you've got 2 really good running backs in Devin Neal and Daniel Hishaw who are going to run downfield for you and plow over defenders and gain those extra yards for you. I thought they played really well on Saturday, and I don't know why they didn't get the ball more, but I hope they do on Friday.
So let's just go there. Let's talk about the run game. Let's talk about Jeff Grimes, new offensive coordinator. Something about this game, like it just felt like the play calls were so scripted, and maybe it's a combination of JD still got some rust and he's got to get his play style back and shake that off. But I mean, we were averaging nearly 7 yards a carry with Devin Neal and Daniel Hishaw, and then the second half, I mean, just nothing. You'd get one run and then it's 2 deep shots. It looked like we were forcing the bubble screens in. There was nothing over the middle. We were looking. There was no crossing patterns. There was no slants. It was all deep shots or bubble screens and the occasional run. And I mean, I don't know what they saw on tape to suggest that's the game plan, but that's let's go there. Let's talk about the decision to not run the ball. Like, it reminds me of the Ravens Chiefs AFC Championship. Ravens were running the ball relatively effectively, and that was part of their game plan. And they just stopped doing it and watched the game slip away. And that whole second half, I felt the same thing. It was like, man, we should be up 31-10 right now, or 31-7 right now, and we're barely ahead. Oh my gosh, now we're losing. Oh great, now we have to go down the field and we can't throw the ball at all, even though that's all we've done all night is throw it for 30 plus times, and half of them were, like you said, Jalon had probably his worst game in a Kansas uniform. This might have been the worst loss of the Lance Leipold era.
Yep.
It might be the most, I wouldn't say most embarrassing. We've had some pretty embarrassing losses in the last couple of years, but just all around, just utter disappointment. The thing I kept coming back to in the second half was, what on earth is Coach Leipold doing? I fully trust the guy, but at some point you got to look to your offensive coordinator and go, what the heck are you doing, man? Like, when does he override his offensive coordinator and go back to the game plan? Because everybody, I don't care how experienced a coach you are, or if you're the couch coach here, everybody knew, hand the ball to Devin Neal, hand the ball to Daniel Hishaw, get 5-6 yards, work the ball down the field that way. And it just couldn't do it. So I don't know what it was. I'd love to get your guys' take on Grimes as an offensive coordinator so far. Obviously, Lindenwood, we can't really take much from that game. 48 points, most of the starters were done after the second quarter, so there wasn't a lot to go on. But yeah, I'd be curious to kind of hear your guys' take on the play calling.
Well, see, now I'm a little bit worried. You mentioned Lindenwood. Jalon Daniels threw a pick in that game too. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, and I know not every game is going to go perfect with no interceptions, but that I'm starting to see the signs of Jalon Daniels not being ready. I mean, you talked about shaking off the rust. Man, I mean, he must be rusty. I mean, he is just difficult to watch at times. Yeah, I think he would have had more interceptions if he didn't have to sit after we sat all of our starters second half of Lindenwood, like you said. So it's like, if he had continued to play, he would have thrown more. I'm looking at this offense like it's just so it's just lacking confidence. And I love Luke Graham. I wanted to mention that before I forget. I love Luke Graham.
Highly underrated.
Absolutely.
Highly underrated. Now, that being said, I still think with him being the only guy who can apparently catch the ball and do something with it, all right. I calmed down because I'm being mean, but it's like, it felt like we were favoring Luke Grimm so much, and that's not a bad thing. But it was just like, look, we
became one-dimensional.
We became predictable, and it was a problem. And it was just one of these games that ticked me off so much. And then to have toward the end of the game, I want to say it might have been our last drive. But gosh, I can't remember because now it's been a couple days since the game. But what was it? We needed 3 yards, and all we needed was 3 yards to get a first down.
Yep.
And it was 2nd and 3, and we decide, wow, let's just throw the ball all the way to the sideline. Like let's do a screenplay. And it's like, when that didn't work out, for some reason we decided to do it again. And we failed, and we had to give the ball back. And it was just, I think about these moments, and I'm like, at what point does Jalon himself or anybody speak up? You mentioned, our head coach Lance. When does someone speak up and say, no, we have to run this football because we only need 3 yards and we have the best running back in the country?
Yeah.
We have the best two
guys that can do it.
And it's like, why don't we use them? Why do we not use them? So it was so frustrating. It's one of those games where you want to take your remote and chuck it at the TV. And
yeah. I mean, that drive you're talking about, you run the ball with Devin Neal on first down, picks up 7 like he does. 2nd and 3, immediate shot down the field, overthrows, misses. And instead of, all right, let's because you're already in somewhat 4-down territory, the way Jeff Grimes likes. I mean, he's aggressive. He is.
Yeah.
So as aggressive as he is, you're going, well, why not just run the ball again, or take a short play and then pick up the first down on a 4th and 1. Yeah, it was just mind boggling to me that we were so set on the ball way down the field. And like outside of the one throw where Jalon overthrew Skinner, I mean, he was under on everything. Like his arm,
Yeah.
I had made the joke, I think I tweeted out that like I was like, dude, your arm strength's gone. What happened to you? Like, man, you couldn't throw it 30 yards down the field.
And then
And
he
he was underthrowing everything. And then there he launches a bomb over. And it's just, the force feeding Luke Graham. I don't have a problem with giving it to Luke Graham. I think he's fantastic. Sure. You get him in space, he makes guys miss. But then it became the point where it's like, all right, we don't know what to do to get. I mean, Lawrence Donald had a couple of good catches, and it's just the way the second half. To me, it's the second half play calling. Yes, we still should have ran the ball more, but I think it was at one point. I was trying to pull it up. If you go into the third quarter, KU had 12 yards of offense in the third quarter on, I want to say 2, maybe 3 possessions, and 2 of those were 3 and outs. And so it's like, all right, you're putting yourself in a bad position. It was just like the Chiefs-Bengals game coming out of halftime in the AFC Championship a couple years ago, where they get stopped on the goal line going into halftime, and it's like they just forgot how to play football and didn't know how to play call anymore. It's because they come out 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. And all that momentum went back to Illinois, who, by the way, did not look that good. Our defense was pretty substantial that entire night. Yeah, they had a few chunk plays here and there, but, I mean, my goodness, how many times did they get into a 3rd and long and somehow by a split second, Luke Altmaier gets the throw off to Zakari Franklin downfield and gets a first down? Like, the defense was everywhere. Brian Borland's had a heck of a job the first 2 games here with getting his guys to put the pressure on. Like, offensive lines have been getting beat up left and right by this group. The linebackers are looking really good. Cornell Wheeler and JB Brown look very impressive. You know, the safeties have been okay, but we know what we get with Kobe Bryant and Mello Dotson. It was just so frustrating to see that type of effort come out on defense, and you're rewarded with, all right, guys, go back out there, do it again. So I don't know. It was frustrating. Austin, what's your thoughts on Jeff Grimes and his play calling?
Yeah, going back to the pick six, I mentioned it earlier.
That terrible play.
There was
everyone
reason.
could read that.
We were KU was up 10-6. Like, don't you think at that point, like after giving up the field goal, you'd think like, okay, we have the lead. We're not going to get the ball to start the second half, but why don't we just like run it? And if we can get to a good point down the field, then
It wasn't that there was like barely a minute left in the half too.
But we were like, KU was on their own half of the field and they called a pass play on 3rd down and 8. I really didn't think it was necessary to be that aggressive, especially with the 4-point lead and how the offense was playing sporadically at times. I felt like it was just best if we had just run the ball that drive. But unfortunately, the pick six happened. It is what it is. And I just remember watching it happen in my seat, and I was like, no way that just happened. Like, I mean, JB, you talked about, watching that game on your TV and like feeling like you want to like throw your remote at the TV, right?
That's right.
Well, try being at the game, because what I wanted to do was yell cuss words out loud for everybody to listen to, because I obviously is very frustrating. But I mean, just seeing it in person though it's a different experience. Seeing a loss in person like that is a different experience. It really is, versus watching it on TV. But that the pick six play could have 100% been avoided.
Yeah,
in
like
my
to me,
opinion.
that was the major turning. Like after that, the offense had no ability to move down the field the rest of the
time. Yeah, and like they talked about how Illinois did a really good job, or like they've done a really good job of disguising coverages like leading up to the game. Like, don't you think like after the first interception, which I know was on the first drive of the game, don't you think like, okay, they're an interception on the first drive, like, I mean, like we've been saying it, run the ball. Run the dang ball.
I mean, we talked about it. Right? We didn't talk about it pregame, but there's a lot of pregame talk that Illinois runs a lot of this 2-5 coverage.
Yeah.
And they have guys float around the line that look like they're going to line up, and then they drop back into coverage. And it just felt like Grimes' answer was, all right, we'll just get our guys in motion and we'll get the ball into their hands quick so they can make a play downfield.
Yeah.
Well, then it only takes 2 or 3 bubble screens in a row for the defense to go, all right, we'll just cheat. We'll just cheat our way up. Jalon clearly hasn't been able to throw the ball downfield yet and get in sync with his receivers that well. So they cheated up. I mean, that one, as soon as he hiked the ball, I mean, it was such a rookie move of hikes it, immediately turns, stares down receiver, slow motion, ball comes out, corner jumps it, and I'm forgetting his name now. But that was his second, 2 picks in the game because he's just reading the eyes of Jalon. And we got to talk about Quentin Skinner too. I thought he had a horrible game. I mean, back-to-back weeks, trying to get him involved in the run game, and he fumbles twice. This one was just an embarrassing one because he probably had a decent chunk play there. Bobbles it there. Didn't have his typical Quentin Skinner game downfield, missed a couple plays. So, yeah, bad there. Lawrence Arnold I thought actually was fine. They just didn't really target him. Got to talk about tight ends too. I mean, Jared Casey lined up a lot, but they haven't done anything with him yet. He's been basically a decoy blocker. He did have that. I think he did have that 1 3rd down chunk play. But yeah, Devin Neal, 14 carries, looked really good. Was on pace for like 170 yards. Stopped.
The dude's got 550 plus rushing yards left until he becomes a KU's all-time leading rusher. I'm not sure when he's going to break that record, but I really hope it's sometime within the next, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. I mean, just based on how he's done in the first 2 games, he's averaged, about 100 yards per game. So he's had like 213 rushing yards up to this point at 2 weeks into the season. So, yeah, I mean, we got to feed the ball more to Devin Neal and obviously give the ball to Daniel Hishaw too. I mean, I really don't think there is a better running back duo in the Big 12 than Devin Neal and Daniel Hishaw. I don't know. Like I look around, there's a lot of really good running back talent, but there's not a better one-two punch combo than Daniel Hishaw and Devin Neal. I mean, that's the bread and butter of this Kansas offense that, we saw it last year. They ran the ball a bunch and it worked. Like, I know it's a completely different offense, obviously, but that's what KU does best is running the ball, and I think we'll see a lot of that against UNLV. But I did really quick before we kind of move ahead. I wanted to bring up the defense. It was one of those games where the defense was just on the field too long. They played a really good game.
Yeah.
People will say, "Oh, they didn't play well towards the end of the game," all that stuff. Yeah, of course they didn't because they were.
You
on
wouldn't
the field
either.
too long.
They were on the field almost the entire second half.
Exactly.
That's right.
It's like you can only play good defense for so long, and the issue is KU did not play complimentary football this past weekend. So when you turn the ball over as many times as they did, 3 interceptions, losing the turnover battle, you're not going to win on the road, and your defense is going to get tired because both sides of the ball got to complement one another, and they've got to do a better job of that this Friday.
Yeah, and I don't know what it was in the second half. I know time of possession ended up almost even for the game, but I definitely felt like that second half, the offense was not on the field very long. And it's like, hey, defense just went out and got you a big time stop. Yeah, had big time play, good sack, tip pass or something, and then 5 minutes later they're back out there. So yeah, they definitely looked, I wouldn't say completely gassed by the end of it, but then Illinois started running a hurry up offense and couldn't get the D-line guys rotate enough, and they even still made the stop there to give him one more chance late. And yeah, just all around, like Jalon looked terrible. And I know, Austin, I know I texted you about this. If you saw his press conference, he looked disgusted with himself. He looked frustrated. He looked angry.
Good.
So hopefully that turned something on.
Yeah, I'm glad he's ticked off. I mean, I watched it too, and yeah, I mean, his body language, he's trying to remain positive as he's answering questions. And I know a few people out there have talked about it, but I really do appreciate the fact that JD stuck around and answered questions from the media after the game and took responsibility. He didn't, throw anybody under the bus. He was like, yeah, I've got to be better. And, Illinois just made some great plays. I mean, Illinois' defense, they've produced some really good cornerback talent. If you really think about it, look at Devin Witherspoon. I mean, there's been so many cornerbacks that have come out of Illinois that have turned out to be pretty dang good players in the NFL. So let's not get too ahead of ourselves here. I mean, shouldn't have lost that game 100%. And it's very frustrating when you're watching a game where that your team is better than their team, but it's the mistakes that just make you feel like they're just kind of shooting themselves in the foot. And
it was more
I
of
feel
KU lost
those,
this than Illinois won it.
I feel like, that is worse than getting blown out. Like losing a game that that they can win, but they don't. I mean, I'd rather see a blowout than this. Personally, I'm not. No,
Yeah.
obviously, nobody wants to see a blowout happen, right? But like these types of losses are definitely more frustrating, especially when you watch them in person. It's oh boy.
So, Austin, if I can get your take on something, there's something
Yes.
I tweeted out about this at one point. I don't even remember at what point in the game it was, but
Yeah.
I could hear it on the broadcast. I could hear it. I could hear all the students in Illinois chanting FKU, FKU, like nonstop. I don't
You
know
did?
if you remember this. Yeah. Oh yeah, I heard it. It was I tweeted it out.
I don't
But
remember that.
I mean, it's okay if you don't recall or didn't hear it. But like, man.
I was sitting on the opposite side of the stadium.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
their student section is right behind like the opposite goalpost. I probably would have heard it, if they chanted it
Yeah.
loud enough. But I didn't hear any FKU chants at the game. They might have chanted that. I mean,
Okay.
and if that's true, then I kind of talked about this last week. The college football team that caused Illinois to have a sold out crowd for the first time in 8 years was the Kansas Jayhawks, not the Ohio State Buckeyes, not the Michigan Wolverines, not the Penn State Nittany Lions, the Kansas Jayhawks.
Well, hope
And
they
they rushed the
got their
field
wish.
too. I mean, people have talked about it already, but like if you went back in time 5 years ago and told somebody that, oh my God, Illinois is rushing the field after beating number 19 Kansas,
You'd be
people
laughing.
would be like, what the heck, but that right there, I do want to, kind of point that out. That just goes to show you how far this KU football
Yes.
program has come along. And
Think this positivity.
and the thing that really makes me happy on the inside is that KU fans are now upset about losing in football. Like in the past, I've seen KU fans like just, oh, we lost. Nah,
Just be
whatever.
competitive. That's
I don't
all we
care.
Whatever.
ask.
I expected us to not be good. But it's really awesome to see that people like actually care about this football team and that people are upset when games like this happen and they just they're not like whatever. Like it affects, like KU fans are affected by football now, and it's awesome to see. I mean, this is a top 25 team. They're not a top 25 team this week, but
Nope.
but if they can have a really good showing on Friday, which they're playing a team against UNLV that, in my opinion, like I could see them being a top 25 team easily. You go watch their game against Houston. They played really, really well. And then, I know it was Utah Tech, oh, it's a no-name team. All right, whatever. They put up 72 points. I mean, that is nothing to gloss over or scoff at. And yes, KU did beat them in the bowl game last year, but nothing about that bowl game matters at all. That is something that the team does not need to think about this week, because this is a completely different UNLV team, a completely different monster that this football team is going to have to go up against in Kansas City, Kansas on Friday night. And,
Well, you know what?
if they're not ready, UNLV could very well beat KU, and it would be a travesty if that happened. But I do have confidence that KU will find a way to bounce back. But they're going to have to be ready, because this UNLV team, getting ready to play us again, they're going to, it's. I think the Illinois loss might have been a little bit of a blessing in disguise if you really think about it going into this game, because UNLV already has a fire lit underneath them because they remember what happened in the bowl game. And I know it's a completely different team now this season, but now KU's got a fire lit underneath them now because of the loss on Saturday.
Yeah.
And maybe
Well-
that's what they need. And I don't know. Who knows? Like, what if they went on and actually turned out to win that game, and then this week they go on Friday and then they end up getting shocked at home against UNLV? Like, I don't know. Like, I just think it's good that KU has a fire lit underneath them. Obviously, it's never good to experience a loss, but having a fire lit underneath them, I think, is going to help KU this week, because UNLV is going to have that too.
Or
Yeah.
well, do they have a fire lit, or are we just exposed? Like that's kind of my take, because it's looking at like I can appreciate how back in the day Kansas fans would have just scoffed at a loss. Yes, you're right. Like we've come a long way, and here we are. I think I think I'm scared for every game the rest of the season
Oh,
because
of
I know
course.
now we have to think. What about UNLV? What about every single
At
game
Westball. Heck, what
at
about Houston?
Westball?
As bad as Houston is.
I actually think we're probably fine against Houston,
Yeah.
Yeah.
no matter what. But that's just me. But
Ben
like
Easters could play quarterback that day. We'll probably be fine. Not to throw shade at Ben Easters, but
Houston can very well be our second win of the season because I don't know. I mean, as much as we can say, oh yeah, like we beat UNLV, we can do it again. I don't know. Maybe Jason Bean beat UNLV, not Jalon Daniels, and I know. It's crazy because we used to be like, obviously, like
I don't know.
JD's the better of the two.
I find it funny that our conversation now is, oh my gosh, we did not put enough respect on
I
Jason
know.
Bean's name because everyone wants him back. At the
I
same
know.
time, we know Jalen is the more talented quarterback. Just had an extremely off night.
Isn't it wild?
So let's wrap up here. Let's try to spend some positive. Yes, there's going to be. I think there's still going to be questions about Jalen. He's got to put together a good game for us to feel more confident. Is his ability there? Absolutely. Is he capable? Absolutely. Combination of better play calling, utilizing the guys around him more effectively, I think he's probably gonna be fine.
Okay,
But
Austin.
if we go a third game where he looks a little rough at quarterback, because I mean, let's be honest, even week 1 against Lindenwood, not that he had to do much, he didn't really do that much exciting. He had a couple good throws, but didn't really have great statistics there either. So if he looks rusty again for a third time, then I think we've maybe got a little bit more to be concerned about. But let's try to be positive here for a second. Big picture here. Yes, the loss sucks. It hurts. It's frustrating. The undefeated season is gone now, but now you got that in the past. You don't have to worry about it. There's no going into Manhattan being 7-0 anymore. But the bigger picture still is if KU wants a shot at the college football playoff, they got to win the Big 12. So Big 12 still totally on the line. This game has no indication of how the Big 12 play is going to go. And if college football is taught me anything in the first 2 weeks already, is that there's a lot of wild things that happen on a Saturday, Friday, Thursday, whatever. There's plenty of teams that have looked really ugly. Oregon's supposed to be one of the 3 best teams in the country, and they are barely getting by their first 2 opponents. Oklahoma State had to have a massive comeback this last weekend to pull out their win over Arkansas. Crazier things have happened. We've seen LSU crap the bed, Notre Dame struggle. So that there's plenty of opportunity still to get better. The nice thing is that this game really has no indication of that. It doesn't have any implications on college football playoff, other than if they become an at-large bid team, they probably have no shot. But all that being said, they can still run the table. They can still go out and win the Big 12, find themselves in the Big 12 championship at the end of the year, and have that chance. Question is, how much confidence do we have? I can tell you, JB does not feel confident about that at all. His is 0, and he's probably going to be at a 0 until KU has 55-14 blowout. I do have questions over K-State. I do have concerns that Jeff Grimes is not the best candidate for offensive coordinator. It's 2 games in. Let's slow down. I'm sure they came out at halftime with a scripted game plan. It didn't work, but there really wasn't a lot of time to react to that anyway. So maybe that gets better. I still think KU has one of the most talented offenses in the Big 12, one of the better wide receiver trios, I guess, best running back tandem, and that defense looks really good. I think that defense can hold up against just about anybody. The rush defense is way better. But I did have a buddy text me. He was like, hey, maybe because he's not a KU fan. He's like, maybe this is just all hype. All you KU fans got too excited about the hype of the season. Yeah, that may be true. We had high expectations because on paper, this team should be the best team it's had in probably 25 years, if not ever. And all it takes is one derailment. But just like the Chiefs, who blew some stupid games last year, losing to the Raiders on Christmas Day,
honestly,
they still won the Super Bowl. Losing to the Lions opening night, or the freaking Bengals losing to the Patriots this weekend, that doesn't derail the entire season. So as frustrating as it is in the moment, there's still a long season ahead, and I think there's still a lot of hope. Jalen's going to bounce back. The frustration, though, is all of our hopes and dreams do kind of ride on the shoulders of Jalon Daniels. So as much, he's got a lot of pressure. He's got a hand in his back. Let's be true.
You missed a great
not the
pun
shoulders,
there.
yeah.
No, you missed a great pun.
Back up, rewind.
Yeah, because that was.
He's got to put the team on his back, literally, physically, mentally, all that. But yeah, I still feel pretty good. Let's get a good showing in Kansas City this weekend. Another sellout crowd. Let's have fun. Pack the park. Is that what we're calling it?
I guess, yeah.
Pack the
I think it's
Park.
Pack the Park. Yeah, Children's Mercy
Blackout the
Park.
park.
Blackout the
park.
Blackout the Park.
Blackout
I
the
like
park.
Oh, dude!
I like
when I
Pack the
saw
Park.
that, when I saw that post from, I saw it first on KU football's Twitter, and I saw that they were going to do the blackout jerseys and blackout uniforms. I'm like, this is their desperate attempt to win me back as a fan, because they know
You like
that
the blackout jerseys.
everybody does, but man, those jerseys are so good.
I love them.
It might win me back. I don't know. For right now, my tweet is still out there. It's still standing. I won't delete. No delete crew over here. But it's just, we'll see. We will see. We have a big, big mountain to climb.
Yeah, we'll get back to it. One thing I did want to put in here that I want to mention earlier, because you mentioned Luke Grimm's name. I texted this to JB and Spencer last week. Luke Grimm is quietly sneaking up the leaderboards at Kansas, and he might go down as top 5, maybe even top 3 or 4 best KU football receiver of all time if he gets there.
Guy.
He's top 7 receiving yards, and I think when I did the math, he's going to finish top 3 unless he just gets injured. He's going to finish top 3 in total touchdowns at this pace. He's going to finish top 3 total catches, total yards, and total touchdowns if the season goes as the way it should. So shout out Luke Grimm. He's been Mr. Reliable.
Shout out.
Not to give him the comparison just because of how he looks in his number, but he's got that Julian Edelman type to him. He's a little bit bigger than Edelman, I think. But you get him in space, man, he makes people miss, just like how Devin Neal makes people miss behind the line. So still feeling the optimism. We'll work on JB all week, getting him more hyped up and pumped up. Maybe we may or may not have a game preview later this week. We'll see. It might just be something short that day up. But, of course, I'll have some game day picks. It didn't happen this week, and it's, of course, Jeff Grimes' fault, but always parlay Devin Neal and Daniel Hishaw touchdown every single week, no matter what. It is plus money every week. And if Jeff Grimes does not suck at his job or be a disappointment, that will happen. That is almost a guarantee. We were on pace to do that every game this year. So all that being said, get all the frustration out now because there's a lot of football left. Let's turn the page. Last game doesn't matter. It's on to UNLV, and it's on to Westfall, and then on to the rest of the season there. Let's get back in it. Let's pump up Jalon Daniels this week. Give him some encouragement because the guy is still a highly talented quarterback and has a lot to play for. And if he's rolling with the Hawks, then the rest of us can be rolling and KU's can do this fine. But yeah, that'll do it for this one. Make sure you again like and subscribe so we can get to 1,000 subscribers. Give those jersey giveaways out.
Hey, I feel bad for whoever gets that Jalen Daniels jersey.
No, my goodness, we gotta work.
Hey,
you just wait when he comes out.
I still love the guy. Hey, I still got Jalon Daniels' back. Hey, I know he had a bad game, but
good because if his back goes out, he's gonna need yours.
And when he goes out there on Friday, I think he's gonna play a lot better.
He's gonna ball out.
We've seen JD play ticked off before, and when he's ticked off out there on the field, he's a fun football player to watch. And I have no doubt that he'll bounce back and perform better the rest of the season.
If somehow KU does not come out focused about this, I think it'll be a shock because
they've got
all of KU football fandom is pissed about how that game went, and I know the coaching staff hears it. The players see it and hear it, so it's got to be in conversations. It would be nice if we heard, some sort of comment from Leipold or Jeff Grimes this week about, hey, if we really screwed that up, yes, we should identify our strengths and roll with them and emphasize that. Man, maybe we'll. It's early in the week. We'll see that. I'm sure he'll have some press conferences. But yeah, like and subscribe. Help us get 2,000 subscribers. Also, make sure you come back throughout the week to check out our KCSA Game Day Gambles, our new featured weekly show for college football and NFL betting. We got a couple episodes coming your way this week, and so make sure you check that out. And then give us a follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at KCSA Pod to see all of our Game Day gambles and all of our sports bets. But that'll do it for this one. Appreciate you guys joining us. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks. You go 1